we're going to go around and continue the conversation. And so today we are really thinking about what are these evolving conversations around gender and feminism, and I think a number of our panelists have already spoken about that. And what we really wanted to think about today, as everyone has already discussed, the use of social networking, online spaces, and cyber activism, and how that grows out of, in many ways, grassroots movements or creates movements as well. And I think that's really important to think about the relationship to LGBT organizing and feminist movement. Colin already mentioned and talked about the importance of feminism in LGBT organizing and sexual minority movements. And so I wonder if we could, my opening question for the panel to get us started, to think about how movements for gender and sexual rights and justice are clearly aligned, and yet there are distinctions. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you see in making connections between these movements apparent, and what do you see as important in that conversation?
I immediately disagreed with the question when I got it.
Okay, well, let's talk about it.
And I'm curious as to why you think the movements are separate and how they manifest as separate.
I don't think they're separate, but I think that often, for example, in the Bahamas right now, we're having a huge battle around a gender policy, and gender equality and LGBT issues have come up and have become a scapegoat for, we can't talk about gender equality because secretly the government is trying to pass gay marriage, and so the churches have emerged and erupted and created a division between the women's rights movement and LGBT organizing on the ground. And I know this has happened in Barbados as well, and here there have been conversations where at times these movements get pitted against each other, not from within movements, but rather through public discourse or misconceptions about what gender means and what gender and sexual rights mean.
I think that's a huge issue, Angelique, that you point out with the public, because people ask me all the time when I kind of say what I'm doing, why are there so many movements? Why people can't settle on one name? Why they have to be lesbian 1 minute, but then they gay the next minute? And people just don't understand the politics at work. They don't understand identities at work, and they see the movements, the individuals, as these kind of unsettled people, and the movements then as being unsettled as well. I think that what we're all trying to do with making these things more accessible and making the campaigns more accessible and separating it from the work that we're doing, like as academics and so on, is trying to get that across to the everyday person, that they can see how their own misinterpretations of things and their own mistrust is misguided, basically. And yeah, so even though we're all working for the same thing, I think the people do believe that they are fragmented and that there are different movements. In terms of how we can connect them, I think, well, what We Can't Wait does is we post things that different groups are doing. So like we will post, okay, I Am One is having the Our Story campaign. We posted the Karamis videos and connected within the discourse of equality, within a discourse of sexual diversity, and using that as the kind of umbrella for where we all kind of fit, including the heterosexuals, because that's another comment that people make. It's like, oh well, why they are so, what is this gay thing? What they have sexual orientation, but as heterosexuals we don't have sexual orientation, because they don't see, they don't understand the terminology and the way that works. So I think just the way that we're foregrounding the connections ourselves online by connecting with each other, I think that's a step towards that.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, two leaders in the women's movement here in TMT basically said, just pass a gender policy without all that homosexual stuff in it. It's really meant to deal with the issues of women, to address their concerns in employment and education, in the labor force. and let's not be distracted from the main purpose. And I think that illustrates perfectly the way we divide things, and the division is often between what is seen as the low-hanging fruit and what is seen as the more difficult issues. So abortion is seen as difficult, and people want to separate that. And in a similar way, a lot of the LGBT issues are seen as, we like to use this word, controversial. And within civil society, within development organizations as well, there is that kind of divvying up where people kind of don't want to be tainted by an issue that they see as requiring a bigger investment, requiring more time, requiring more work. For us, what has been useful, and this is something that we've gotten from the public opinion polls that we've done, we ask people about their opinions on a range of social issues, so not just LGBT issues in isolation, but also on adolescent sexuality. Should young people have access to SRH services, on domestic violence, on child sexual abuse? And we found that it's useful to take to policymakers in particular a battery of information. So that you're talking about multiple communities, you're talking about children, you're talking about women, and yes, you're also talking about men who have sex with men.